I'm really happy with the reception of the Jordan Lynch video for sure. Have
Yeah,
you
no,
have
for
you
sure.
seen the views and stuff?
Yeah, bro. It definitely it was a good reception, which I knew that it would though. I knew that it wasn't no doubt that it wouldn't get good reception. And I
Yeah.
hope it was like good insight for people as well into like Mark Carmel and the program and Jordan Lynch because it's easy to make assumptions and have a perception on the outside looking in, but I think we gave more of a in depth insight on the program internally, and so
He probably dropped the most bars out of anybody we we interviewed, bro.
yeah, no,
It's
he
like
was
as he kept
definitely
talking, I'm like, bro, he like he keep dropping bars, bro. Like
yeah,
what's up with
yeah,
this
no,
dude?
he
Not
was
not
talking, man.
yeah, overall it was definitely a cool interview, cool experience, just being shown around Mount Carmel. Like I kept saying it on the video. That was the first time I've ever like got that much of a tour around the campus. I felt like I've never been anywhere outside of the football field area and the gym, the basketball gym. Like
Right.
going through that whole tour of the school, that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, it was definitely a cool experience for me as well. Like, and it was learning for me also. Like the interview,
Yeah.
gave me information and a lot of knowledge that I wasn't, aware of before. Just as far as their system and their processes to getting things done. And if you don't really know it, and if you don't tap in, you really won't. You'll have a perception that you don't really understand. So I kind of feel a little bit differently about some things after sitting down and learning, and hopefully other people did as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I didn't really realize until I asked him the question that he explained, because we brought up the conversation about Mount Carmel playing more out of state games like East St. Louis. And he made a very good point. He said the difference between us and East St. Louis is that most of our games are scheduled by our conference. So we really only have the opportunity to play 2 out of state games versus East St. Louis. They have a smaller conference. So they have the opportunity to play more out of state games. So usually they have a lot less conference games, so they have the opportunity to play out of state games, and or they don't even got to play out of state games. They can choose
Right.
to play any other team out of conference, but
Just
they choose to play out.
non-conference.
Yep, they choose to play out of state.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting to see. The only thing that I wish I would have asked him is what he thought about the bylaw proposal to expand the playoffs, because when we did the interview, it didn't pass yet. It was voting was still going on, and I feel like we should have asked him how he felt about a potential playoff expansion, because that would have been nice to get insight from him before the actual news broke today.
Yeah.
That would have been
Yeah, that
very
would've been
nice to
dope.
get. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we can't do everything, man. I think we did a
Yeah.
pretty good job at, the questions that we ask and, so, I
Mhm.
mean, we can't get all the questions, but I mean, it's not too late. We can always hit them up and ask them like, what do you think about it now that it has passed? But,
Mhm.
we've been seeing a lot of coaches voicing their opinions about, the ruling today. Well, I think most of them were against it, to be completely honest. Like most of the
Yeah, I
ones that
think
I
I saw
saw
yeah, I think
were
I saw most
against.
people against it, because it's not even my thing. What I've saw, it's not even like they're against it. I shouldn't say that. They're against it. But I think the most receptive feedback is that they're not attacking the problem at hand. And they know what everybody wants is that, I guess, I don't know if everybody wants this, but most people want the IHSA or the member schools to do something about private schools dominating football.
Yeah,
That's the
but
truth, bro.
okay, yeah, but I think that we have to let that go, and that's kind of something that even sitting down with Jordan Lynch and understanding like just the lineage and the history and the fact you can't compete. Okay, I'm just gonna say it flat out. A lot of schools can't compete with the Catholic schools because of the lineage that they have, because of the structure that they have, because of the relationships that they have. Like that's a lot to compete against, and most of these public schools don't have that type of foundation for their school. They don't have that type of culture like for their school. So it's like when you don't have that type of tradition, like he was mentioning, I think Emmett has younger brothers coming in. Elliot younger brother is coming up. Ryder Starks is up next. That was Parker Starks' brother. Like it's families involved in this, and it's a collective effort. Like Mount Carmel is a
It's a
big
culture at
family.
the end of the
Yeah,
day.
it's a culture. So no, you will never be able to compete with that unless you create your own. So there's no bylaw that you can propose that will fix that. There's nothing you can do. You can set it up however you want. The Mount Carmels are gonna be the Mount Carmels because of their culture. So just let it go. Like, and the thing is internal. It has nothing to do with any laws. It's internal. You have to build a program up. We keep on mentioning East St. Louis in the mix. People don't like that, but the truth is they have a culture, they have a tradition, they have a foundation of a certain level of standard that allows them to compete at a high level. They send guys to the NFL. They have multiple guys in the NFL right now, multiple guys playing college football right now. That is their standard. The same as Mount Carmel, the same as Morgan Park. Like, we could just get into it. We could just get into it right now. Like, it's a cultural thing. And I think that when you're dealing with the expansions and the teams and all of this stuff about unfair advantages, I think that there should clearly be a separation, right? So what's happening now is that more teams are going to get into the playoff. And you made a great point, and I'm gonna let you explain the point that you made to me that kind of swayed my opinion about certain things and kind of give me a little bit more of transparency in the situation, because I think, like myself, all of the other coaches and people around are looking at it from an elite perspective, right? They're looking at it as like this waters down the playoff, this waters down competition. Like, you giving participation trophies, when I now don't agree with that, because in essence, this is high school sports. Their kids, this is still considered youth to me. This is not professional. This isn't college. Like, even college is still considered, amateur to an extent. But these are kids, right? Quote, yeah, but we'll get into that. But essentially, these are kids, right? And this is about experiences. And this is something that I mentioned to you. It's like we can't prioritize a small group of people and make rules and laws based around them. We have to look at the general, like, we have to look at the whole landscape of high school sports, high school football. And like I said, it's about experiences. These kids, this is the height of athletes' athletic career and experiences in their whole lifetime. Majority of them not going to play in college. Majority of them not going to the NFL or play professionally. Like, when they look back and they're 25, 30 years, 40 years old, they're going to look back at high school and be like, man, I remember when I went to a playoff with my brothers, or I remember when I did this and that. For us, we went to TF South, right? On Thursday nights, it was a tradition that we have pasta night, and we went out and we went TPing. And there wasn't nothing malicious about that. Like, the whole community was involved. Like,
Yeah,
we
even
riding
the cops will
around.
stop us and be like,
Yeah.
TF South football. He'd be like,
Uh-huh.
yeah. He'd be like, all right, carry on.
Right, yeah, just be safe. Yeah,
Just
but
be
we
safe.
TP
Yeah.
in houses, we doing, and it's all in fun. Like, even people's parents was letting us in, people's houses, and we TP in the houses, toilet paper and all. It was fun. I remember that till this day. So it's all high school sports is about development and experiences. It's not about being elite. It's not about winning state championships. It's not about none of that shit. It's about the kids, literally. So if I put on, like, look at the perspective of being elite and competitively, no, I don't agree with this. No, I don't think teams should get in there. They don't deserve it. Yes, I think the playoffs should be for a select group of teams and programs that have put in the work and earned the right to compete for a state championship. I totally agree with that. But it's a much bigger picture. And it's that it's an amateur sport with kids who are creating experiences, and they don't have that priority or that mentality. And the programs and coaches don't either. And that's just something we have to accept. This is amateur sports. So I think inclusion is okay, because once you graduate from high school, the real world begins, and you won't get a chance to have inclusion. You won't get a chance for things to be fair. Like it's going to be cutthroat from here on out. So why not just give them this one moment that they'll live with forever and remember, like, damn, maybe we did get beat by 30 or 40 points, but I at least remember what the experience was like going to a playoff game with my brothers and battling out one last time, instead of just knowing in the middle of the season, hey, y'all not getting to 5 wins, y'all not going to the playoffs, and it's over with. I'd rather go out in the playoffs than go out just ending the season like, hey, we didn't make it, pack it up, we out of here. I think that just makes for a better experience, right? But that's just my perspective. But I'm gonna let you, give yours.
I think you hit a lot of great points about the inclusion aspect of it. We talked about it earlier too before we got on the call. And when you brought up that point, I'm like, yeah, that you because sometimes we with us going through high school and then college and stuff, and kind of been in the working force and just experienced life, we kind of understand that everything isn't fair and everybody's not going to have the opportunity to do everything. But we didn't fully understand that until actually becoming adults. You know what I mean? Like, being in high school, I clearly do not think the same way I think now than when I was in high school. So I want to hit on your inclusion point. I think it is important to have inclusion when it comes to giving kids opportunity to, even just play a playoff football game. right? Because that's what we're talking about, right? This is playoff expansion is only for football. And a 3-win team, 4-win team, some people may see that and say, if you win 3 games in a season, you should not be playing in the playoffs. Or some people may even think that a team that wins 3 games, some people may think that the coaches and the team don't even want to be playing in the playoffs, right? They probably just want to get the season over with, whatever the case may be, right? But then outside of the inclusion factor of it, there was a thing that I actually read in the press release, and I was telling you about it too when I was like, I think this is more around not necessarily inclusion. I think it's more so around trying to solve the conference shift problem where teams are having a problem scheduling games. I think that's what it's more about. I'm actually reading a statement from Executive Director Craig Anderson from the press release today about this specific proposal. Pretty much in quote, he says, "We are hopeful that this playoff expansion will provide intended relief to our schools by stabilizing conference movement and eliminating the difficulty of scheduling football games that many of our schools face each year. It may create some short-term complications for some schools, conferences, and coaches, but we remain optimistic it will create long-term stability in football and beyond." Now, I want to just highlight the part where he said the difficulty of teams like scheduling games. We mentioned that Mount Carmel is not a school that we're thinking of when we're talking about a team that has difficulty scheduling games, because even Coach Lynch said it. Most of their games are scheduled from the conference. So they're going to at least have 7 to 8 games scheduled for them, just strictly off them being in the Catholic League, right? And then they have the opportunity to play maybe 2 out of conference games, depending on, the year. East St. Louis had the opportunity to play a little bit more out of conference games because their conference is a little smaller. But there are other conferences that I can't, and obviously I don't know every conference in Illinois, but there are other conferences that we're not thinking of that are not as known as like a Chicago Catholic League conference or a South Suburban conference or a West Suburban, like, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of conferences that we're not thinking of that don't have really enough team in their conferences that play football to even schedule games. So it leads them to schedule more out of conference games, and it gets a lot harder for schools that may not be the stature of an East St. Louis or the stature of a Mount Carmel to schedule out of conference games. If Mount Carmel was, let's just say hypothetically, right? And I'm only speaking hypothetical. If Mount Carmel was in their own conference and they had 9 games for 9 different teams they had to schedule every year because they're not a part of a conference, just say hypothetically, I don't see them having that problem because of their brand of football. Like, it's Mount Carmel, everybody wants a piece at them, right? Or same thing with East St. Louis. If East St. Louis is not in the conference, I don't see them having a hard time scheduling games because they have that brand of football, right? But when you're talking about a school that's somewhere in Southern Illinois that nobody really knows about, and on top of that, their conference is already small, or people have left their conference, whatever the case may be, and then you got to convince them to play out of conference schools, like more out of conference. Let's just say 5. They got to schedule 5 out of conference games. That's more than half of the season, right? 9 games, and they get a hard time scheduling that because of their location, or because it just doesn't make sense for a team that wants to play them because nobody knows who they are. Whatever the case may be, this could potentially help them, or at least help them get into the playoffs so they don't get as stressed to say, all right, we need these X amount of games so we can get to 5 wins. Maybe they only have 6 games scheduled in the season, and then they get to 3 wins and they're 3-3. Or maybe they have 7 games and they get to 4 wins and they're 4-3. You know what I mean? So I think in that sense of, and I don't know too much ins and outs of what's actually happened with the conference shifts. I just know it has been a thing that's consistently been talked about, at least since we've been covering football, about the difficulty of scheduling games, specifically for football, because of the movement in conferences. I think this kind of helps them in that way. And also the inclusion part that you brought up, I think that also helps teams that, maybe teams don't get to 5 wins every season, but they can get in with 3 wins. That, I think the inclusion part helps with that too. Whether you agree or disagree, it's happening. But the thing that I fear, is a potential backfire. I mentioned to you on the phone earlier too, right? Although this is going to help small schools or schools that have a problem with scheduling games, right? This is also going to benefit schools like let's just say hypothetically, Joliet Catholic wins 3 games, right? And they're in class 5A, a specific year. And in their 3 wins, they ride it all the way to a state championship. I think that has the potential to cause more. What word am I trying to use? More. I don't know what word I'm trying to use. It would make people more upset.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I mean, I think as we talked a little bit about what college football and the landscape of college football, it's almost like be careful what you wish for because you may get it, and you always have to deal with the good and bad of every change. Like it's gonna be both. So I mean, yeah, it may be some a negative situation that comes out of this, but I mean,
at the end of the day, the member schools decided on this.
yeah, yeah. So you're
This is
just
what
gonna
the
have to deal
legislative
with it.
process is when it comes to this, right? Now, one thing I want to stress, going back to what we always talked about, it's super important to be educated on these types of topics because 90% of the members voted, like 90% of the member schools voted, and that's a pretty big turnout.
Yeah,
From conversations I've heard, every year is a turnout. They don't get that type of turnout every year. Okay. Sometimes it's usually around like 60, 70%, I've heard. So the fact that 90% of the member schools turned out, that's actually a good sign, right? The only thing is that, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate, how many of those member schools that voted were educated on what they were voting for? Is what my question is. I'm not asking you that. I'm
right.
just saying that's what I'm playing devil's advocate. How many knew what they were like kind of wanting to get across the finish line? You know?
I would hope that they understood completely
I would hope
what
so too. But as we've known, and this is just from our experiences, just having conversations with people that are ADs, that are coaches, that are principals, a lot of people don't really know the ins and outs. For one, the legislative process, but two, the bylaws that are actually in place. I mean, we've seen things happen this at the end of the summer where people were speaking out about certain situations, and as they were speaking, we're like, they clearly don't know how this work, do they?
yeah. I
Like they
mean,
clearly
you see it even in our comments now with stuff like this happening, and you see the type of comments that we get, and certain blame being pointed towards, like the IHSA shouldn't have done this. Well, it wasn't the IHSA
IHSA.
that did it.
It
It
wasn't. It
wasn't
was the
like,
member schools.
man, when people
And
understand.
90% of the member schools said we want this to happen.
Yeah. Yep. So all of this change that people want, like you have to understand that I want to say we have the power, but me and you, we don't have the power. But ADs and coaches, and I think our
We have
part
the
is
power of
this.
our voices.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Our
say. This is
voices
our
is
power.
powerful,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's
Yep.
about the furthest it could go.
Right. We
We can
can't propose
educate.
anything. We
No, we
can't
can
vote.
educate. Yeah. All we can do
Yes.
is educate from with our voices, but we can't. No,
Yeah.
we can't make anything
Yeah.
happen. Not even the parents. Parents can't do that either. It's only
Nope.
the ads and the principals, or a representative of the school.
Yeah,
So
so you're right. I think that's the first part is just educating yourself on the legislative system. But I mean, back to the bylaw. Yeah, I mean, I just think in closing for me, I just don't think this situation is as binary as people want to make it. There's a lot of nuances and is relative to. I mean, every school is different, and I think that it will benefit some. Some people will be mad. Like I get both perspectives. I don't think anybody's wrong for saying that this isn't good, and I don't think anybody's wrong for saying like this is great for football in Illinois. Like it's just relative. So I mean, it's cool with me. I think it's fine. Just given, like I said, the inclusion part. You mentioned a great point about the conferences. And I mean, at the end of the day, the end result is gonna be the end result. Like the elite teams, the greats are still gonna make their runs. Like it
yeah,
doesn't
this doesn't
change
affect
anything.
them. Yeah, it
And you
doesn't
know what?
affect
I
them.
wanted to compare it to something else. I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong on this, but in basketball, everybody qualifies, right? There's no way a team doesn't qualify for to at least compete for a state championship. Like regionals, everybody participates, right?
I believe so because I just actually made the graphic for the sectional uh destinations. So I think
Yeah,
and I think I
every
believe
school.
so. I believe
Yeah,
so.
so I mean, but you could argue and you can make a case that hey, certain teams don't have certain records. Should they be allowed to compete in the regional to have a chance to compete for a state final? Like no. So I don't think that the inclusion is going to water down football in Illinois because it's a mentality. The greats are the greats. The elite teams are the elite teams. The mentality is a mentality. It's not going to change anything. You think Mark Carmel is going to sit back and be like, oh, we only need 3 wins to get in, so let's bullshit the season and let's not give our all and let's not schedule tough games. Like, I think it even gives more of incentive for good teams to play better teams, because now you won't be as punished as much for the losses. Like, now you could go out and play hard competition knowing that you got some games that you could lose and still be able to get in. So I don't necessarily agree with the watering down. I don't agree with that. But this does make a case for me in my open division idea. Now it's probably even more of a reason now, because everybody's included in this thing that's supposed to be, it's supposed to have a lot of value and mean a lot in terms of like qualifying and have a bunch of value. So, why not create an open division where you can separate from all the inclusion, and you just have
Somebody
the
had
elite.
to come up with a very
Bro,
good bylaw proposal in order
dude,
for that to get through.
separation is in terms of college all the way down, separation is necessary, right? Because all teams aren't equal. They don't have the same resources. They don't have the same facilities. Like, think about the NCAA, right? Why is there a Division One? Why is it a Division One FBS, a FCS, a Division Two, a Division Three, a NAI, a JUCO? Why is it all of these different levels? Because all of the universities aren't operating the same. Right? They don't have the same competition level. They don't have the same scholarship rules. They don't have the same facilities. Same reason in IHSA. Why is there a class 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, and so on? Because everybody isn't competing at the same type of level, and it's not fair. So I think a separation is fine. If you have a group of schools who have a mentality of, we want to be elite and we want to compete and we have 4 and 5 stars and we recruiting and we doing whatever the case may be, put them in a group by themselves and let everybody else compete. And that's okay. Separation isn't in everything. It's okay. Everybody isn't competing the same. There's nothing wrong with that. Let the elite go be elite and let the people who want to be included, and everybody happy. Like, I don't know. I think it works. I think that's okay.
Well, somebody had to propose that and really flesh
Yeah.
that out and come up with very specific points. Because one thing I was telling you about when this was going through his legislative process, when I saw this proposal, I immediately thought, I'm like, oh, this was very, like, out of any of the other bylaw proposals, I thought this one, Proposal 19, was very well thought out. Like, in my opinion. Like, even when they had the mock-up brackets and everything or whatever, I thought it was very well thought out. The thing, and what's the funny thing about this Proposal 19? It actually doesn't, well, it does, but the proposal is not to expand the playoffs. The proposal is actually to move the start of the IHSA football games up 1 week earlier, eliminating week 0 scrimmages. And then from there, it gives them an extra week of the season to expand the playoffs. So the playoffs will actually is a terms and condition that will actually have to be changed, I believe, by the board of directors or the advisory committee. One of those. I believe it's the board of directors, though. So technically, the proposal was to start the football season a week early, to move the football season up a week early. It wasn't necessarily to say, hey, we're expanding the playoffs, even though the long-term goal or the overall goal of it was to move the season up a week early, to have that extra week to have a playoff expansion.
Right.
So just putting that in mind.
Yeah.
But if somebody was to propose an open division, I mean, they would really have to think that through.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that easy.
Yeah.
One of the, and I hate to bring this up because this actually wasn't on the ballot. I can't remember what bylaw proposal it was. I want to say it was like 18 or 15, whatever it was. It was still the multiplier thing, raising the multiplier from 1.65 to 2.5. I don't know if I want to mention this. Well, shoot.
I mean,
if most schools know if they're educated on the legislative process, they know that since that bylaw did not make it to the ballot, whoever created that proposal could bring that back again next year, and it could skip the legislative commission process if they get 20% of member schools to petition to say that they want that specific proposal. As it currently is, like, no changes or modifications can happen to that proposal, but as it currently is, if they get 20% of member schools to petition to say they want this to go straight to the ballot, we could potentially see that bylaw for the multiplier change to increase it from 1.65 to 2.5 on the ballot next year if the said proposal goes through that process. I don't know if they will, but I fear that it could possibly happen.
Yeah.
Now, how would you feel if the multiplier, on top of playoff expansion, if the multiplier was raised from 1.65 to 2.5?
I mean, like I said, I mean the great teams are gonna be the great teams regardless. Like, I mean, you can move it and shape it however you want. You know, I mean, obviously we'll see more of, I guess, the Montinis of the world will be up, Fenwicks, everybody will be up into 7, 8A. So you essentially will more than likely have all of the Catholic schools competing in the same class. I mean, 7 and 8A for sure. And I think maybe like lower levels like IC Catholic won't be there because they're what 3A. So Bishop McNamara, schools like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, shit. I just feel like you keep trying to they find ways to make it more fair, I guess. But as I keep saying, the good teams are gonna be the good teams regardless. Like so,
Yeah.
the, you know,
You know, when we also interviewed Coach Lynch, one of the things he said when he was showing us around school, he said, obviously, football has 17 state championships. They just won their fourth consecutive one. They'll be going for their fifth consecutive one next year. But the one thing he brought up was basketball. They don't have the same success in basketball. And if you really look at the historic wins of basketball state champions, most of them are public schools.
yeah,
And public schools dominate basketball, at least in state.
yeah,
And I feel like sometimes, and obviously I know why, because football is by far the most popular sport in Illinois high school sports. So people have a little bit more care for it, right? But I feel like when a lot of these proposals get brought up, people only think about one specific sport. I really do. And I'm not
yeah.
gonna say all of them because some of these other bylaw proposals are around other sports, or it happened because of other sports probably, and they change other sports. But I feel like when it comes to like the multiplier and saying that the private schools should have their own playoffs, people think of the success that a lot of private schools have in football and don't really consider it for other sports.
And you right about that. And I want to add on to some as well. Some that really be pissing me off, bro. If we really thinking about this as a whole, in total, like like the whole as Chicago Catholic League, whatever. How many are actually dominant in football? How many teams are actually dominant?
It's
Like
the
if we're
same
making this,
ones usually.
yes, but we're making it seem like it's an unfair advantage for non-boundary schools. That's what it seems like. But without having to name any programs, there are many Catholic League programs that lose to public league programs. There are many Catholic League programs in football that can lose to CPL schools, and they have this past year. So it's not like it's this big old problem where it's like every Catholic school is dominant in football. It is a handful, literally a handful. I can name 5 that are dominant, but other than that, it like some of them don't even make the playoffs. Some of them don't even compete in the playoffs. So how can you say the Catholic League is so dominant when they have teams that don't make the playoffs, just like anybody else? But what I'm saying is a culture. Every Catholic League isn't the same. Just like every suburban school isn't the same. Every city school isn't the same. Like it's relative. This is not binary. Like it's not black and white. Everybody has different situations, but this notion that Chicago Catholic League is so dominant and it's so unfair, it's a lie. It's a facade. It's not real. You're just looking at outliers. You're looking at Mount Carmel. Don't use Mount Carmel the same way you can't use East St. Louis to justify public dominance. These are 2 schools operating on a whole nother level than anybody else. But take the rest of the field. Take the rest of the field in the Catholic League. There are not 12 Catholic League football teams dominating football. It's not 12. It's not 8. It's not 7. It's not 6. It's literally 5. And I'm really being nice saying 5 when I say dominant over the
People
last
forget
decade.
that Mount Carmel went on like a 10-year drought, bro, of winning
Man,
state championships in football.
bro, like it's not. It's just recency bias. It's because they're dominating and they doing
It's
so
post
well.
COVID. It's I
Yeah,
think recency bias, like you said, but it's post COVID. I think that's where a lot of the shift we saw is like, I guess more
yeah.
private schools are winning since COVID. So in that light, but I mean, what last year? How many private schools won versus this year? It's definitely less this year. I think the main thing is just it just kind of looks a certain way when it's coming from a specific conference.
Yeah, I
Like
just think
every
it's
private school that won this year was from one conference. So it's
man.
like
It's
Hmm.
a it's a bullshit argument. Like I'm
But
all
if you
for
look
that.
at, but if we look away from football, I guarantee you, if we look at other sports, way less private schools won this fall sports season alone versus last year's fall sports season. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. I don't have the facts up in front of me, but I guarantee you because I remember having a conversation. I believe it was with Matt Jensen, who runs a lot of the numbers, and the amount of private schools that won this fall season, even if you include all five, was it five or six? Was it five? Private Catholic League state champions this year? Was
Yeah, I
it Mount
believe
Carmel, Brother Rice, Fenwick,
Fenwick, Montini.
Martini, and St. Francis? Okay,
Yep.
so even if you include that five, I still think there are less private schools that won this year in all of the fall sports in comparison to last year.
Yeah.
That's my whole point. It's like I feel like we think too much, and I get it because football is the everybody's favorite sport. Everybody's favorite sport, right?
Yeah.
But when we start to get into changes that has ramifications on all the sports just because of one specific sport, I
Yeah.
think that's that. I think that's tough for people to just, I don't know,
Yeah.
kind of
No, I
messes up
get
a
it.
lot of other sports when you think of one sport. Now, obviously, this football proposal is not. It's only for football, but
Yeah.
there's other bylaw proposals that affect multiple sports that
Right.
got passed as well. So,
Yeah.
mm.
No, I mean, yeah, we'll see how it unfolds. We'll see in the next couple years what changes are made. But as we gonna get into more bylaws, I just want to keep on making this a a focus of conversation where it's like we're talking about the bylaws, we making it cool to discuss it, and educating people so that more things can change. Like it's not a big deal because at the end of the day, it's high school sports. I'm gonna just stand on that. Like that's my foundation going forward. Is like it's still just high school sports at the end of the day. It's not like people are, you got coaches out there who are doing it for the love. They're not being paid to do this. Athletes aren't doing it for money. Like it's still some amateur essence to it. So I think we just kind of have to put that hat on and not this super competitive elite NIL power four, like perception that we have, even though it exists. But guess what percent of that exists in high school football? What, 2%? How many four stars are in Illinois compared to the thousands of players?
Yeah, I just think every state has different problems, right? Because it was one I can't remember what state it was, but I remember seeing a tweet from like a coach from a different state, and it says public schools have an unfair advantage against private
Oh
schools, and they should be
yeah,
in their own playoffs. And we
yeah.
saw that, and we was like, wait a minute, hold on, time out. You're telling me that this state has the complete opposite situation going on, meaning that people want the public schools to be in their own playoffs because the public schools have an unfair advantage. But then when you bring it back to Illinois, everybody's saying the private schools should be in their own playoffs because the private schools have an unfair advantage. I thought that was kind of interesting to see. I feel like we should have a conversation with, I can't remember who it was, but,
Um,
and
yeah.
I can't remember what state association it was either, but I thought that was very interesting. I think I even hear some things that back out in Texas, right? It's dominated by a lot of public schools, right? Or did
Yeah.
I get that wrong?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of those places is that way because it's not a true the boundary or non-boundary doesn't is not the difference here. It's about the kid. That's what I keep on bringing that up. Where are the schools getting the best? Who has the best players? That's just what it comes down to. Who has the best players? That's it. So if this community has a culture and they have a foundation of great players, of lineage, of tradition, of all these things, they're going to be good. I don't care if it's in the suburbs, if in the city, if it's Catholic, if it's public. It just is what it is. If everybody right now, because look, here's something that we can get into that I don't know if we talked about getting into, but the business of the Catholic League schools, the business
We
behind it.
talked about
And
this off camera a
we
lot, but
talked
go
about it off camera, but I
ahead.
think it's important to understand that if every student said we don't want to go to Mount Carmel no more, what happens? They're gonna shut down. Or if all of the kid, you know what I'm saying? Like
I
they're
thought
gonna
about
go.
one school in particular, dude. I don't know if most people know who Gene Pingatori is, but if I'm not mistaken, I think he's the most winningest coach in Illinois high school basketball history. Let me pull that up real quick and fact check myself. And I'm gonna go back to your point, Fa. I'm
Okay,
not straying away from the topic,
all
but
right.
I just want to make sure I'm right when I say this. That's all. Hold on. Damn, where is this at? All right, winners basketball programs. Damn it. Hold on. If we look at releases winningest basketball programs, I'm going to IHSA boys, Gene Pigator of Westchester St. Joseph with 1,035 wins. All right, let me just bring it to this point. Westchester St. Joseph was a private school that I believe it closed back in like 2019. I want to say, I could be wrong, maybe 2021. It closed recently. All right, it closed within the last decade. And Gene Pingator, he's known to have coached Isaiah Thomas. I think he coached Evan Turner. He's coached a lot of prominent basketball players. And if people don't know who he is, if you ever seen the documentary Hoop Dreams, the white guy with the little big glasses that was coaching both of the players at the beginning of the documentary, that's who Gene Pingator is. He's an Illinois high school coach basketball legend. All right. And as I mentioned, most wins. I remember somebody was telling me, this is so a while back, bro. Somebody was telling me that, or having a conversation with me, that if Gene Pingator was to ever lead a school, St. Joe's would close down. And I'd be like, I don't even know what that means, bro, but okay. And then you realize that he had such an effect on the school where it was a prominent basketball program that a lot of the kids that were going in there were coming there for basketball. And then when he left, there's like no prominent basketball program anymore. What are we going to the school for, right? And it goes back to what you were saying with the business. The private schools, they constantly have to think about the next generation, because just because Mount Carmel is winning right now, that don't mean they'll win forever, bro. Or just think about any private school. Just because this specific private school is having success right now doesn't mean it's going to last forever. And that's the same with public schools too. I don't want to make it seem like it's limited to private schools, but the thing about private schools is that people pay for tuition, or it's not free schooling.
Right. It's not funded by the government. Like it's not
exactly.
Yeah, so that's the difference.
So they constantly got to think of a business side of things of like, all right, how do we forget the sports aside, right? How do we constantly get kids to come to our school? Sports is a good marketing tool. Don't get me wrong. The fact that Mount Carmel is super dominant in football, that draws a lot of students to that school. But every student at that school does not play football.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and academically as well, as we saw on the board, like how many people go off.
My point exactly. So when you think about, all right, so if everybody that comes to the school is not going to play football or not going to play a sport, how else can we get people to attract to this school? Academics.
Yep.
Or selling that you're going to succeed in academics, you may get involved, maybe not in sports, but some form of activity. And then on top of that, look at where all of these kids go when they graduate from Mount Carmel. You see a bunch of Power 5 schools. At the end of the day, you see a lot of kids going to college, right? From many different races, by the way, I want to add. From many different races.
Yeah.
Demographics, I should probably say. It's probably better to say. But many different demographics. And even, I think it was one thing that Coach Lynch said, that even if they're not going to college, we'll still try to hook them up with a trade or to get into the union so they can at least have work when they got to high school.
Yeah. And I think that's the go ahead.
But they're constantly, my point is that they constantly have to sell their school consistently. So when Coach Lynch goes back and say, yeah, everybody here is recruited, he wasn't talking about for sports. He was talking about recruited for everything outside of sports, because they constantly have to worry about getting kids to come to that school. Even when you think about other private schools like Brother Rice and even Marist, I bring up, I talked about their marketing. Marketing is so important that obviously, you know, these schools and businesses understand that, but marketing is so important. Even when it came to a bunch of these schools doing the entrance exams, because a bunch of schools did entrance exams for like 8th graders. And the way they were even marketing that, I thought it was chef kiss, bro. But at the end of the day, you gotta get kids to want to come to your school, especially if you're a private school, because you run a risk of having to constantly have students pay for tuition to the point where it's like, if nobody comes to that school, the school would probably shut down if they can't get kids to pay tuition or whatever. But that's I went on a rant.
No, and then closing, I'll just give this last point and close it so we can move on to the next bylaw. But I think because of that business that you mentioned, they're forced to be ahead of the curve all the time. Like there is no settling, there is no being
Letting
content.
up.
They
No
yeah, they
content. Right.
always have to be creative in their marketing and in their approach. Like you mentioned, all the different things that Mount Carmel talked about from the fight night that he talked about,
Fundraising.
the
They still
fundraising, all that.
fundraise.
But
They get
look,
yeah.
listen. That that's what some public schools aren't doing. That's why I don't care when they be talking all this shit
Well,
about
some public
unfair
schools
advantage in
are.
this. No, they are. No, don't get me wrong. Like, and the ones that are having success. That's the whole thing. It's like there's a formula to success. Like a lot of these coaches and ADs still have an ancient way of thinking. Times have changed. Kids have changed. The game has changed. And if you don't adapt with it, you get left behind. You can't have the same ideology you had 20, 30 years ago and be like, hey, things shouldn't change. It should still be the same way and we should have the same result. No, that's why some programs 20 years ago were good and today they're terrible. Because you haven't adapted and you're not forced to, because there is no incentive for doing it. I don't think that, hey, if I don't market my program, we're going to shut down. Or, hey, if we go, we lose every game this year, I probably won't be fired. Or like, there's no fire under them to be able to want to adapt and be good. Like, you know how many schools lack on the marketing part of it? Like, what would make someone want to come to your school? Like, market yourself. That's why I'm gonna keep
And
using
you
the
know
word
what's even
recruit.
crazy? Some schools have very nice facilities, and they
And
don't
you will
even
never
market
know.
it.
You will
They
never
don't even
know.
market it.
Yeah, man. Like you got to get with the
Some schools
time,
have some very nice facilities. I'm like,
bro.
whoa, bro! I would have never known
Bro,
that
this is
all of
this
this
is
stuff was added since I left. Oh, my bad. I gotta.
no. Go ahead. No, because you're
That's
right.
where I'm getting at. That's where I'm
Yeah,
getting at.
like, and I'm gonna give credit, and I don't want to single them out, but it's just certain programs that we have relationships with. I'll keep giving credit to Morgan Park High School. Right, you're in the CPS. You lack a lot of the resources. You lack a lot of the things you need to be successful in terms of football goals, but they do a great job of marketing their kids. They do a great job with brand outreach. Coach CJ is starting a podcast. All these things are like innovative in terms of like getting with the times and gonna make people like a draw to your program, make people want to be interested in what you're doing. And he's ahead of the curve. And look how much work they have to put in just to be able to be like where they're at right now. Like if Mount Carmel had any bit of funding that they need, adequate funding that they needed for football, they will be a state championship team, no doubt about
If
it.
who?
Morgan Park.
Oh, you
Morgan
didn't say
Park
Morgan Park?
yeah, my bad. I said Mount Carmel, Morgan Park. I'll be flipping, but yeah, Morgan Park. If they had the adequate amount of funding, like they'll be a state championship team, because that's essentially what it comes down to at the end of the day in terms of football. But they still do a great job at wanting people to care about their program. Because of the marketing, they got the chrome helmets this year. It's little shit like that that's gonna make a kid look at them and be like, damn, like I want to go there just to wear the chrome helmet, or I want to go there just because Coach CJ is doing this podcast and he got, he got fame and all this stuff. Like it's just a lot of different reasons why people will want to come play there. But if you don't utilize any of these tools, then you're not gonna see any result. Like Sandberg, I was just sharing Sandberg stuff, and they had the kids, the 8th graders, out at the game and eating in the weight room and all that stuff. Like you got to market yourself.
Orland Park Pioneers.
Like, come on, bro. Like you got to do the work. We're in a different time. Like you got to, as a coach, it's not just X's and O's. Like Coach Lynch was saying, when he came into coaching, he thought it was just going to be X's and O's, what offense I'm running, what guys I got. But no, it was the management part of everything. And like you just can't get away from that. So a lot of the coaches and programs complaining. I don't see the work behind it. I don't see the necessary work to recruit at least your community at the very least. Like you're not doing a good job at recruiting your community. So of course your players are gone and you're bad. Because Mount Carmel is definitely out recruiting. They're out marketing. They're out everything than you. So I mean, you already playing from behind as it is. So if you're not doing those things, then shit, what the fuck you expect? Like seriously. But I think we did it for that bylaw. So we spent like 40 minutes on that.
Yeah. The only other one I care to talk about, because we're people only want to hear our topics, our thoughts about football, and there's no basketball one on here, so it really don't matter. But the other one I want to talk about is a very interesting one. I believe it is bylaw proposal 12, that allows each school to participate in one free football combine, transporting up to 20 senior students, and it takes effect next school year. So, and I believe, it says the combine has to be free. So this allows a coach to essentially organize 20 of his players to participate in a combine. So they can like round them up, get on a bus, take them there,
In
do
the off
everything they would need
season.
in the off season. Because if most people don't know, that's not something you can do in the off season. A coach cannot round up his players before the start of the season to practice whatever, unless they can only do it strictly for conditioning and working out. But they can't do it for like strategizing with trying to practice essentially and
Mm.
like start the season. And I know for a fact they definitely can't take them on. I ain't gonna speak to it. I don't want to say something that's inaccurate. But this bylaw allows them to round up 20 of their players and do a combine, free combine. What do you think of that?
Dope.
A
I think
free
it's
combine, I should say, a free one.
free of
I
it.
think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the idea of it was that some schools want to get like together to kind of throw a combine at their school to have like maybe a conference gets together and say, hey, TF South is hosting a combine for all of the South Suburban Conference, and all of the South Suburban Conference schools has a combine where it drills and stuff, and a bunch of college coaches come out and see X amount of players from this specific conference, or whatever the case may be. I'm just giving an example, but pretty much a school would host a combine, a high school would host a combine, and a bunch of the local high schools would come in, round up 20 of their players to be at this combine, and college coaches would come and see. Pretty much like North Central. Like you remember that, like what North Central did?
Yeah, but you had to pay though.
No, but you don't pay is what I'm saying.
Oh, you don't
But
pay.
imagine that, except you're not paying.
I don't.
You get, you get what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that for the simple fact of
And it
because
has
it's
to be
the
free?
free. Yeah, the free part because I mean the camps and combines that you like really want to take your athletes to are the 1 days or the camps that you essentially have to pay for. Like the North Central camp, you have to pay for that, and a lot of the college camps like you have to pay for. So it will be hard for me to imagine that there will be a lot of programs that are gonna hold their own combines. Like I don't see that happening, and it not being as valuable because I mean, our college coach is going to come to these events, and see them play
I
or
think it
like,
depends on the school and the relationship that, they have with certain recruiters.
so they can't take the kids on college, like to college camps. They can't, if they have to pay for them, they can't take them.
It doesn't outline it, just says they can't, but I do think the main deciding factor that if I'm paying attention to that blocker word is the free part.
Yeah, the free, yeah, that's was, yeah, I
So
mean,
if they technically, if I'm understanding this correctly, they technically could take them to a college combine or a camp or whatever, only if it's free though.
okay.
So
All right. Okay.
that's what, but
So
that's
does
what I'm
that
reading. That's the way
no
I'm understanding it.
no. I'm not saying that's not to you. It's just to the bylaw. So hypothetically, right? Is this saying that the kids are paying for? Like, what if it's paid for? Like, what if it costs but it's paid for?
I'm sure it's a
I go,
loophole in it.
yeah.
I'm
That's
sure it's a
yeah,
loophole.
yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
it's I'm
yeah.
sure it's some type of loophole.
Yeah, because
I'm
it's
sure
just hard for me to.
yeah.
It's just for me, my perspective. I haven't seen that. Like I haven't seen schools hosting combines for other schools to come to and I don't know if I've ever seen that, to be completely honest. Unless it's not public. But then if it's not public, then what value does that have? Like you typically go to camps to get exposure, but if nobody knows about it, like how much exposure are you getting? I don't know. I mean, cool. I mean, I'm gonna say cool, I guess, because they get to do something in the off season where they get to, assemble and go to a camp, whatever that may be, and they could work out or whatever benefit or value it has. So, cool, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Cool. But this is something that it kind of sparks a thought for me, right? It's the assembling of a group or team in the off season.
20
We've had
players.
yeah, 20.
20 players.
Which is
Yeah.
20. I wonder why 20. Like, what's the 20? But
10
typically you
offense,
won't
10
need that many.
defense. I don't know. You won't
I
need that
guess.
many anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You won't
I
need
think
that
it's
many
more
because
like
most guys.
fluff, like
Yeah.
more wiggle room.
Okay,
what
that
you
makes
wanna
sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, so like just being able to, assemble in the off season because somebody made a point. I'm not familiar with this bylaw. I don't know what it actually says, but in terms of like being able to practice in the off season without a football. Like I guess like when you have off season practices that they can't actually like do any football stuff. It has to be all conditioning and weight
Yeah,
room.
all
Like they
conditioning.
can't.
Yep.
Right. So I heard some people saying like, hey, how about changing that? Which is a good idea. Like I don't see why there can't be development through the whole season, through the whole year.
Yeah, I
Like
find that
I
very
don't. Yeah.
I'm gonna hold off my thoughts
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that.
no, no,
Yeah.
I'll talk, but yeah, I don't agree with that. Like, you should be able to play football all year, train football. If we want to run routes on air, why can't we run routes on air? Like, I get the competitive part. Like, maybe we don't assemble against another team and we play, but if we just want to go through our playbook and run plays on air or whatever, I don't know what's wrong with that. If we want to do indie ball drills, whatever the case may be, with the footballs, I'm not really understanding what the big deal is about that. But I don't want
I
to
would
get
have to
away from the
think,
point.
yeah, because I was about to say maybe a lot of it is around sports medicine, but then I think about it, a lot of these other kids play more than one sport. So it's like
Yeah.
they're constantly playing sports year round and stay in shape. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just one of those outdated bylaws. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully that's something they look into because I think that they should be able to, participate all year, assemble all year and play football. But I bring that up to bring up the fact that we've obviously, had some things happen during the basketball season right before with that type of situation where,
Is this the time we bring it up now?
I think so. I mean, why not? Why not? Because I think it's a valuable time to bring it up, giving the bylaw situation.
Okay.
So the first situation was obviously Coach Flowers from Simeon, who was suspended for the team trip assembling going to Hong Kong, I believe, and they played games and he coached, and faced a suspension. And this is like one of those situations where assembling before the official
Yes, what I
start
was
of the
saying. I want to make
basketball
that
season.
clear. He did not get in trouble. They did not get in trouble because the team went to Hong Kong. They got in
Yeah.
trouble for assembling their team before the basketball season and then playing games in
Yep.
Hong Kong as well.
Yep.
So
And so, along with, I know Kenwood and Leo also faced suspensions this
for a
season for
scrimmage,
for the scrimmage before the official start date. So, I mean, it's something that I hate to see because obviously the kids are the ones most affected by this. Like,
it is.
the conversation isn't around if what Coach Flowers did was good or not. Like, obviously, nobody is debating that. Like, you take kids from an environment, take them to a new scene, and they get motivated and inspired and get away from their situations, and it instills certain goals and visions in them, and it's great. Like, nobody's debating about the intent of the trip. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like, the bylaws still exist. And I think that this is something that, Coach Flowers, Simeon, Kenwood, Leo, like all of the teams who feel that they should be able to assemble before the official start date, maybe they can kind of replicate this type of bylaw proposal where, hey, at least one time before the official start of the basketball season, you're allowed one team trip. And
And you
you
can
can play you.
assemble X
Yeah,
amount of
you can.
players.
Yep, you can
20 players
assemble.
is more than enough.
Yeah, so for basketball, maybe it's 10 or maybe it's 9 or whatever the case may be, and you get one coach or something like, they got to however they structure it, but just to avoid these situations because this isn't the first time. And I know I'm not here for the debate and I'm not here for the nuances of like, oh, other people do it and the loopholes. I'm just dealing with the bylaw, what it states and what you do to break it. And that's it. Like, that's clear cut, right? So I do hope that somebody does come forward in the basketball community and puts forth some type of proposal to be able to combat that because I don't want to see teams getting punished for assembling early. And I think they should be able to. If they want to do something great, like go on the trip and give an experience, because I'm sure other teams are, want to do it as well. Taking team trips to go assemble and play. Like, you should be able to. I don't see anything wrong with that, but it still just has to be done the right way. Like, if it's a bylaw saying that you can't assemble by this date, then that's just what it is. And the proper way to go about it is the legislative system. Like, it's not any other way. You can't, have outrage and blame it on race and blame it on all this other shit. Like, no, it's a bylaw set, and there's a proper way to go about modifying the bylaw. You know what I mean? As we can see in football, it's clear as day. Like, obviously, the people who are putting forth these bylaw proposals are people who disagree with how the bylaws are. In that moment, maybe they disagree with something in the language and they want to change it. And they go through the proper system, the process to do it, and it gets changed. I'm sure somebody sat down and thought, like, damn, it's unfair that it's not an extra, 100 and whatever teams in the playoffs. And it's some people missing because of conference and all this stuff. Hey, let's sit down and make a bylaw proposal that allows X amount of teams to now be in and expand the playoffs. Somebody sat down and and drafted that and outlined that, in their language, and they got it passed, and people voted on it. So it's not the first or last time it's going to happen. So I would just love for the basketball community to just get this done so that we don't see this again, because I don't want to see Simeon suspended again, because this wasn't the first time that it's happened. They went to Africa and the same thing that happened. So at some
And they
point
were suspended for the same exact reason.
yeah, for the same reason. So, like I said, this isn't pointing a finger. This isn't pointing a blame. This isn't taking a side. This is just simply providing a solution to a problem that's obviously ongoing in the basketball community. And, I would love for them to put forth the proposal to get the shit changed so we don't have to deal with this. I don't want to see these basketball teams suspended because they're assembling, because they want to do something good. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get extra work in. There's nothing wrong with wanting to take kids on a trip. But at the end of the day, there's a governing body for sport in Illinois, and they have bylaws that have to be followed. And if you break them, it's their job to enforce those bylaws. And it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with your program. It has nothing to do with hate. It has nothing to do with anything. Now, if you're aware of the bylaws and you do it and you say fuck it, then fuck it. It is what it is. You just have to deal, or you got to accept the consequences. But I feel like it don't have to be this way. You know what I mean? Like, I think that they could definitely put forth something that allows basketball teams to assemble at least one time before the official start date, whether it be a scrimmage, whether it be a team trip, whatever of your choosing, whatever you want to do. You got one time to assemble, and that's it. And I think that's something that'll pass. Like, why not? Why wouldn't that pass?
I think and the reason why I think personally something like that would pass is because it's not a thing that only benefits one school. That's something that will benefit the association as a whole. You know what I mean? A lot of times where I see bylaws that probably don't get passed or don't make it to the ballot is because there's one specific thing happened to this one specific school and they want something to change, and then the bylaw proposal itself is very specific to one specific situation, and then people will look, or the legislative commission will look at it, they'd be like, this seems very targeted from one specific scenario, and it would have way bigger ramifications just to fix this one small problem. But something like that, as far as like allowing a basketball team to assemble to maybe play games or a scrimmage or whatever beforehand, one time before the season, something like that seems like something like that to me seems like it would interest the association as a whole. The member schools, when I say that, the member schools.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
the main thing around it is just that it just needs to be outlined correctly. It needs to be really thought out. Like, it can't just be 5 bullet points and we good. I say come up with research, come up with data, come up whatever way you want to tell your story and paint the picture of how this will be beneficial to the association. That's the main thing I think should happen if something like that was to come about. Don't make it I wouldn't even bring, if let's just say hypothetically, if Simeon was the one to bring this proposal, I wouldn't even bring up the previous suspensions at all. I would just say I will only talk about the positive of why this is important and how it would benefit the association.
Yeah.
As a whole. As a whole.
Because I think it's important, and like I said, I just want to clarify, because I know how people are out there, and people be real emotional and shit, and it's like, bro, you just have to be objective with these things and understand how system and processes work, bro. It's not about right and wrong. Like, don't ask me if it was right or if it was wrong. Of course, it's right. The intention is right. You want to go, take your team on a trip and afford them a luxury that many other people can't have, and give them a once in a lifetime experience. Don't ask me if that's right. But it's a way that you do everything, especially when especially when you're Simeon, especially when you're black, especially when there's a microscope on you and everything you do is being evaluated and assessed. It's a certain way that you move. We know this, right? So why do we don't have to talk about that shit? We don't have to address that shit. We have to address the solutions. And that's what we're here to talk about. So it's like, if you want to talk about anything else, then we don't want to hear that, because we know what we have to do to get it changed. Let's get the people together that can do it, because we don't have the power. All we can do is use our voice like we doing now. But ADs, principals, coaches from all of the teams, all of the conferences, y'all get together and y'all can make it happen. And like you said, even if it doesn't pass, they can always come back the following year. And it could come back up again. If you get a certain amount of votes, it'll pass.
It's a way to get stuff through. It's all I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying?
And when like with certain things, like I said, I fear. I shouldn't say this. I suspect that the multiplier bylaw proposal will be back again next year. I suspect. And it may not even go through the legislative commission this time. I suspect. I don't know for sure. But to your point, FA, yeah, if you propose it and it doesn't get to the ballot, you can always petition, get a 20% to petition to say that they do want it to go to the ballot if it's the same outline proposal. No changes happen to it or modifications happen to it.
Yep.
So,
And I'm sure it'll go through. I'm sure there are a whole bunch of coaches
bro,
around Illinois
bro,
that will be on board.
all 12 proposals passed. All 12. All 12. So if it gets to the ballot, more time than not, it's probably going to pass.
Yeah. And just think, it could have been done. Like, this shit could have been over with. Like, when it happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you know what I'm saying? If they would have just put it through, like, hey, we going to propose a modification to a bylaw that says we can assemble at least one time before the official basketball season, it would have went through its process and been done already. And we wouldn't even be here talking about it right now, you know?
I don't know if he fully understood what he suspended for the first time. I'm not sure. I don't know. I would have to assume that he didn't.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, I mean, yeah. So, hey, I hope the right people hear this and they start putting it together for next year. Because I mean, we have a whole year to get something put together. You know,
October 15th will be the last day to submit it to the executive director
of next year.
Of next school year, October 15th of 2026.
Yeah, so that's plenty of time to get up with whoever you need to get up with to outline a proposal to bring forth like a modification.
And the person that will have to submit it is the AD or principal of the school.
Yeah.
The coaches, I'm pretty sure they can speak with the AD and give their input on something. I'm pretty sure they can. But as far as like the actual submitter, it has to be an athletic director or principal or like some form of representative of the school, like a superintendent or something. I can't remember, but I know the AD and principal are like the main two people that I think of.
For sure.
So it's a lot of work that goes behind it, but I mean, I think it's possible to get a coalition or something like that for sure.
For sure. For sure. And it's something that we
need a
can back and we
coalition,
can
man.
talk about, like, you know,
You
use
need
our
a coalition.
platform. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, but yeah, that's interesting, man. That's interesting. Those bylaws and all, you know, this is a cool process, honestly, keeping up with.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to say the least, because like watching it unfold from beginning to end, it's very interesting, I'll say, for sure. The last bylaw I want to talk about, and we're going to dive too deep on it because I know we already had an hour, but is another football one. It's bylaw proposal 24 that also passed. It modifies football ejection suspicions for flagrant contact by adding a video review process. IHSA staff review submitted video and recommend whether to affirm or overturn the call specifically for ejection in football. Now, reason why I want to talk about this, for one, what do you think about it? Because I want to talk about something else. I
think we both want to. I think we both want to talk about it. To be honest, I don't really have thoughts about it. Like, it's not something that I've run into or noticed a problem with. Like, you know, it's maybe some more internal thing that we don't know about that has happened and somebody, you know, brought it forward. But I don't.
And it's really hard to review from a 2020. Whether to change, I don't know, but
yeah. I mean, if it works, it works. Like, if it fixed the problem out there that we don't necessarily know about, then hey, I mean, cool. But I just don't know. I don't know, you know, what was happening that made them present that. But
now,
now that's the shit I care about.
There was at the state finals a play that we talked about was. And it was a couple plays. It was a couple plays that was like questionable calls that people would say, right? And I remember let's just go to the Brock Phillip St. Francis versus Providence game where people thought it was intentional grounding, right? And I remember kept hearing it like, look at the replay, whatever. And people don't realize like there's no instant replay in high school football to overturn a call, guys. Sorry. But with something like this, and obviously these are two completely different things, because this is talking about looking at a video review process to modify an ejection, not to change the outcome of a game or anything. I don't think we should ever use replay to change the outcome of a game. I just really don't. I think that gets a little too sticky after the game completed.
Right,
I
right,
think that
right.
gets a little too sticky. But in the game, if it's a reviewable call like a intentional grounding or whether he was out of bounds or not, I think it could be an opportunity. But for me, I think it's only possible in a state series because of technology at certain schools. Like, not every school has an instant replay technology. My Cromwell does. And I was even shocked to see that. I'm like, dang, bro, they got this crazy instant replay, almost like, ISU Stadium.
Yeah.
But do you think in the future, just because this proposal 24 got through based on some type of video review process, could we potentially see a similar thing with just
Uh,
instant replay for reviewing like certain type of calls on the field for football? Specifically in the
Definitely.
state championship series, I would
Yeah.
have to say state
Yeah, definitely.
championship game, in my opinion, in my
Yeah.
honest opinion.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think it's impossible in terms of like regular season games or even playoff games just because some sites may not have the technology to do it. And the thing is I don't know how accessible the technology is, but I did have a thought. So shout out my boys from North Central. They actually advanced, they beat Bethel. But I only bring this up because there was a questionable call on the field where it was a lateral by Bethel and they scored a touchdown and they were trying to decide like if it was forward, if it was backwards, whatever the case may be. But they actually have 4 huddle cameras set up all around the field, and they use that as their live review. So they were able to review the play using huddle cameras for set up. So I don't know if they had North Central had the jumbotron instant replay, but they at least had the huddle cameras. So maybe some teams have the ability to invest in those huddle cameras. Maybe it's some special cameras for instant replay. I don't know the difference is I don't order the huddle stuff, but for sure in the state championship, I think so, and I think that it is necessary because I mean, ultimately, like this is the final game to crown a champion, and you don't want a missed call or a bad call to kind of determine the outcome of the game. Like I feel like that's fair. So at least in the state championship, even if you don't have a mega board and you got instant replay, at least maybe the huddle cameras like at the D3 because that was a D3 playoff game. It wasn't even a final game. It was just a regular playoff game. So I think so. I think they need to make that happen because some of those calls, could to determine the
By
outcome.
they, you mean the member schools
Yeah,
need to come up
yeah,
with a proposal.
yeah, yeah, they need to come up with a proposal about it, like, and I feel like that's so simple, and I don't think especially, like, if it's at ISU where they have it anyway, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to use it, but as far as the logistics go, I don't know, I'm just speaking, from the outside looking in, but I don't know in terms of the refs and the technology and the timing and all the different things, like, what may, make that difficult to make happen, but just from, my optic, shit, I don't see why not. You got the big ass camera right there so you to look and see like, damn, that wasn't the right call. Like we got to reverse that. So, yeah, I think they should. I think they should, especially on the biggest stage. It definitely is necessary.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah,
It'd be
definitely.
interesting to say the least.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm excited to see what other what they got in store for us next season, man, and what bylaws will be proposed and passed, and what
I'm sure we'll
changes are
see
gonna
some of the
happen.
ones from previous years, from this past year. I like I said, I know that. I just know the by the way, two classification proposals was up. There was two classification proposals, by the way,
That's crazy.
and I just, bro, that's coming back. Like, okay, I shouldn't say that, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but I mean,
I just feel like it's gonna come back because everybody's
yeah,
been talking about it.
yeah,
I just really hope that we can consider how the ramifications will apply to other sports and not just football. Because I feel like we get so caught up on football that we don't think that guys, it's, even if it's, let's just say magically, it does work for football. Best case scenario, right? It does work perfectly for football. What about the other sports that don't have 8 classes? What about
yeah.
the 4 class sports, the 3 class sports, 2 class sports, the 1 class sport?
Is there any way that they can make it specific to only football, or will it
They
have to
could.
apply to
They,
everything else?
it depends on how they write the proposal. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure they can make it specific to football if they write the
yeah.
proposal a specific way.
I think it would have to be because I think that would be unfair, for other sports, especially for teams that aren't as competitive. Like now it's unfair. Now it's unfair for us because y'all putting us with people we can't compete against. Like I think that's what I'm saying. This shit is not binary, bro. It's not just It's simple as that. It's relative to the sport and the team. And some Catholic schools can't compete with public schools in certain sports. Like, you gonna force them to play with them and they can't compete. Like, if you can't compete, you can't compete. I don't care about the boundaries or not. Like,
I mean,
if it,
some Catholic schools can't compete with public schools in certain sports. Like
yeah,
I
that's what I'm
remember last
saying.
year we was at the Rich Township game versus Marist, and Marist should have won that game, and Rich Township went on a late run and won that game,
Yeah.
and then they just went on a crazy run all the way to the Final Four and they lost, but to Warren, but still, you
Yeah,
know.
like I said, it's relative to the sport and the team. Like, it's not just all Catholic, Catholic, Catholic. Like, just open your fucking eyes and really see everything, and not just one thing that's determining what you think. Like, look at all of the Catholic schools, look at their records, look at the sports, and you tell me, are Catholic schools really that dominant? Like, dude. You're just looking at a couple teams, man, especially for the football side. Like, go look at some of these Catholic school records from this year, and you tell me if Catholic schools have an unfair advantage. Like, it's such a bullshit argument, bro. Like, I swear it is. In totality, it is. In totality, there's truth to it, but it doesn't apply across to the field. It's just some teams are great. Greatness is greatness, bro. I'm sorry. Like, greatness is greatness, man. I don't know what the fuck you want them to do. Like, you could structure it however you want. But Mark Harmaway, they gonna be like, hey, you could set this shit up however you want, structure it however you want. We going back and we getting our fifth one. I don't give a
Yeah,
fuck.
because
Like,
setting a multiplier higher for them is not going. They already
they are
playing 8A off of
they already
success,
exactly. So
off
it's
of
no
success.
much higher they can go. Like, so it don't of certain teams, it just does not affect. And okay, brother Rice will be up in 8A and like, okay, so now you just like, I mean, and the good teams are gonna be the good teams, man. I don't give a fuck how you, because like, with teams going up, doesn't that mean teams have to go down?
Yep.
So now all of the good public schools that are up at 8A are not gonna be lower, and now they're gonna be kicking 7A and 6A asses. So you know what I
That's
mean? So
and I would have to assume that's probably the reason why I didn't get through the legislative commission, because those things probably weren't thought out.
yeah.
But that's why I say it's important, man, to educate, because it sounds cool to say, yeah, let's just raise it from 1.65 to 2.5. It sounds cool, but what ramifications does that really have, though? Like,
Mhm.
what does it really have? I'm not saying I know that right now, but there's many things that I guarantee you that people don't think about when it comes to that. And
And
the ramifications,
the reality to any type of laws and rules is that it will never be perfect, bro.
no, it
It's
won't.
always gonna be
It
somebody
won't.
that disagrees or somebody that thinks it's
Exactly.
unfair. Like, you're
Because
never
we're
gonna get
human
it
beings
right.
and we all experience this way of life differently, bro.
Yeah,
That's
yep.
just the way it is. We're
Yeah,
human
so
beings. We all experience, like, we're on this podcast and we've been having the same, like, we're having the same conversation, right? But I guarantee you the way I'm experiencing this conversation that we're having is completely different than the way you're experiencing this conversation.
yeah,
Because we're
yep,
just different, bro.
yeah,
Even then, we having different opinions on the conversation. So
right,
that's just the way it is, bro.
yeah.
Like, you make certain group of people happy, then you're at the same time you're making another group of people mad.
That's
That's
just
just
the
the
way
way
of
it
life,
is.
bro. That
That's the
just
way of
is.
life, bro.
Yep. So
Can't make everybody happy, bro. It's people
what's
that
my
hate what we
saying?
do.
Yep. What's my saying is, I don't try to make everybody happy, because even if I could make everybody happy, I won't be able to keep everybody happy. So
Yep.
fuck it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
but
Any other things you want to talk about? The other bylaws are like for other sports. Like, hey, I'll list them out a little bit. We don't gotta go into detail about them though. But there's a bylaw to expand the board of directors to include 4 additional seats. There's another bylaw that allow. Oh, this is an interesting one actually. We don't got to dive too much detail unless you have some thoughts on it. But
okay.
it's a proposal too where it says it allows IHSA to revise, amend, or supplement any ruling based on. Oh no, this is something different. I'm thinking of which one is it? It's something around prospective athletes. Okay, here we go. It's proposal 10. It says it adds language to the IHSA recruitment bylaws affirming that the rules apply to prospective student athletes,
Wait,
meaning
repeat that?
that
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
it adds language to the IHSA recruitment bylaws affirming
Okay.
that the rules apply to prospective student athletes. So I think there was something like that happened recently where somebody, I don't remember who, somebody got around like a recruitment bylaw because they were technically recruiting a student who wasn't a part of the IHSA because they weren't in high school yet. So I guess they
Mm.
kind of got around it because it was like, well, technically he wasn't an IHSA student athlete because he was still in 8th grade. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
And
I
they
get you.
were recruiting or and I think some way somehow they got around it because it was like uh the kid was a prospective athlete. He wasn't a student athlete of the IHSA. So this just adds language to say that even if they aren't a student athlete of the IHSA, any prospective athlete can also get in trouble for or be eligible, deemed ineligible, or the school can get in trouble for recruiting a prospective athlete. I think
Yeah, I
that's what it
mean,
is. It's just to reaffirm the recruiting bylaw. That's all it
yeah.
is. It's just to add
I
language to reaffirm it.
I hate that recruiting stuff, bro. Like I just can't wait to the time where it's just like, bro, it's just a part of the game, bro. I hate having to discuss the recruiting stuff. Like, seriously. Cause again, we're
Hold
talking
on, move your
about
mic back to you.
my fault.
Yeah,
You can hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
No, I was gonna say again, this is we're dealing with a small percent of student athletes that are gonna be partaking in any of this transfer recruital, stuff. It's not everybody. It's not everybody. These are a handful of kids who have the freedom and luxury to say, "Hey, mom, I do not want to go to this school," or "Hey, dad, I do not want to go to this school. I want to go 50 minutes away. I want to go an hour away." Majority of kids do not have that luxury. Their parents are not able to do that. So it's like, why make it a rule against it when if I want my kid to go here, he should be able to go here for athletics, for academics, for whatever reason. It should be my choice on where my kid goes. And it's not like if right now they just open up the gates and say, "Hey, you go wherever you want to go. No restrictions." How many people do you think gonna move around?
I can't answer that question. I think it can
I, I,
be a
I'm just
whole
I
different
don't
thing we're not thinking about.
Bro, I don't I'm thinking for one the affording to do it, being able to do it. Like most people are not able to just be like, hey, most people are working full-time jobs, both parents. Some people have one parent households. Like it's not as simple as like you can just go wherever you want to go. It's not that simple. It don't apply to the majority. It's not gonna be like 1,000 kids from the school just up and leave and go. It's not gonna happen that way. The people who are doing it are going to do it. It's not gonna be a surplus. It's not gonna happen that way because everybody's not operating this way. I look just for example, me when we was in South, I wanted to transfer to Hales my sophomore year. Sea Golf was training us coming out there. I had a relationship with Sea Golf. We wanted to go to Hales. My parents said we can't afford to send you. We like, there's no way you're gonna be able to get back and forth to school, whatever the case may be. Like, so that's just an example of like, yes, I wanted to leave, but I didn't have the resources to leave. I couldn't just do that. I just couldn't up and be like, hey, I'm leaving South. I'm going to Hales. I couldn't do that. And most kids can't do that. So I think it's just going to be a small percentage of people who are operating this way that are going to start leaving and going to transfer. It's not going to be a whole bunch of people. The people who are doing it now are going to be the ones doing it because it's already happening. Recruiting is happening. Transfers is happening. Why every year are we seeing guys transfer to different schools? Is it like they just magically move here, magically move there? No, it's happening. So just let it be okay. Stop fighting it. Just let it be okay. It's fine. Because I'm sure there are kids who are going certain places for academics and nobody's saying shit. We don't even know. We don't even know that it's about them. But I guarantee you, it's kids being recruited or whatever for academics that are leaving outside of their district to go to schools that they don't live in for academics. I know that it's happening. And we don't have anything to say about that. So just let the shit happen, bro. It's fine. Let it happen. I think people should have the right to go wherever the fuck they want to go. Like that's just what it come down to. If I got the means to do it, I think I should be able to do it. Like it's just as simple as that. Obviously, there should be some restrictions. I feel like it's a way that you could kind of outline it, that it makes sense, and it's not just a wild, wild west. Like, but I do think that I don't think people should be penalized for going to a school for athletics or recruiting or anything like that. I don't think so. I don't think so. Because if I'm in a situation that is not ideal for me, why are you forcing me to be in it? If I'm at a school where a coach don't give a fuck, we losing, I'm not gonna be where I need to be. Why am I forced to stay here? What if my parents can't move to another? My parents just can't up and move. They have jobs in certain places. They can't just say, "Hey, we're moving to Chicago, so you could go to Mount Carmel." Hey, we're moving to Orland, so you could go to Lincoln Way East. Or hey, we're gonna move to East St. Louis, so you could go. Like you can't. Like, people can't just do that shit. Like, so you may have to live out of the district. You may have to. So that's my rant, but I don't know. I know it'll get tricky, but I don't know. I feel like at some point you have to adapt to it. Like it is what it is, or just turn your eye to it, allow it to happen, and just don't say shit. Which is what's happening now. It's happening now, clearly. Like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Every year is some transfer shit happening, and I don't see anybody getting suspended or anything. So
Well, if you follow the transfer rules,
uh
it's not saying you can't transfer. It just says it has to be these implications on that allows you to transfer to be eligible. So if these if these qualifications are met or whatever,
yeah,
who you know what I mean?
yeah, I hear, yeah.
I'm not gonna dive into detail whether it's true or not, whatever. I know because I know that's you getting at, but if
Yeah,
said X, Y, and Z are met,
yeah,
you're eligible, even if you transfer it.
yep.
So if
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, have some technical difficulties, but that was it. That was the end of the episode. I just wanted to close it out. This is the off-season podcast episode. Damn, it's our 50th episode, bro.
Damn, this was 50, bro. Shit.
Damn, we should have did something a little bit
Yeah, we
more.
probably shoulda.
Oh well.
Maybe,
Hey,
you know what? Maybe we'll make this 49 and a half. Yeah, we'll do 50 the right way. This is the 49 and a half episode.
you think so?
Yeah, maybe, and then we do something special for 50. But that's crazy, bro. Like, cause I know it was some stat that was saying like most podcasts don't make it to like 11 or 12 or
Yeah,
something like
11,
that.
12, yeah.
11, yeah, and we at 50, bro. And shit, yeah, bro. Consistency, man.
Yeah, consistency, man.
50.
That is the cheat code.
Yep, that's
Just
it.
do it consistently. But any other things you want to mention before we get up out of
Um,
here?
No, not really. We should have some talking heads dropping soon, as I talked about. North Central advances, Illinois State advanced in the FCS playoff. We had some decent basketball performances that we're gonna get to. It's a lot of stuff happened that we'll get to through some talking heads. This was more so about the bylaws, but yeah, lots going on in basketball. DePaul College Prep, beat Kankakee, so interested to talk about DePaul College Prep and 4A, man. Shit, I don't want to start a whole nother podcast, but yeah, like it's some interesting stuff going on. So yeah, we're in the mix as far as basketball season goes.
In
So
basketball, yeah, most definitely.
yeah,
Most definitely we are. But yeah, man, it's the off-season podcast, episode 50.
damn, 50
Congrats to us. Let's give a round of applause to that.
for sure, 50,
Let's just give
man,
a round of applause to that.
50 ball.
Yeah, 50 ball, man. I can't believe it. I want to thank all my family, all my friends. Never thought this would be possible. No, I'm
Yeah,
joking.
nah.
But yeah, this is the off-season podcast, episode 50, and we are out.